need to be very clear. We are not a small business.
There's a difference. There's a huge difference.
There's a difference. Because it's like a small business is just trying to like...
Yeah, but that's not a bad thing. We're not saying that the small businesses are bad. There's a place for them, and they need to be there. They need to be there.
Like
Exactly.
for example, like if I start a design firm, I'm going to be a small business.
It's going to be a small business.
Do I plan on scaling like that? I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think I want to be a boutique firm if I ever was to do anything in design, because I think like you get more creative freedom that way. But that's not what we're trying to do.
No.
And because a startup is built for growth and scale, and scaling. So you are basically trying to do the impossible, which is
build that $1 billion business. That's the goal.
Exactly.
Welcome to the People with Ideas podcast. This is episode 5, I believe, and I'm here with Natalie Ouma, who's my sister. And so, Natalie, can you introduce yourself? Tell us about yourself, who you are, what you like. Yeah, let's start with that.
Complicated, difficult question. Names are Natalie Ouma, but I am a jack of all trades. I am an interior designer by profession. I am an urban planner, I'd say, by studying.
What does that mean? What does urban planner mean?
Actually, it's not even the correct word. I'm an urban digital strategist. I think maybe that's like the best explanation for it, because I did my master's at the intersection of like when cities meet technology and what that looks like in the urban space in terms of like new technologies that are popping up. So whether that is how does the cityscape and roads and infrastructure look like when it comes to self-driving cars, all the way to like self-sufficiency and electricity management on a building scale, down and then ranging from like management of cities and using the Ethereum platform as a way to, I guess, manage, regulate land, voting, working with the UN and in refugee camps, and using Ethereum as a way to like help create a tiny little society and like give people voting rights and give people a way to like have money and transact in a space where you can't necessarily have currency. I mean, it has multiple applications, but
you see, and anytime I hear that is when I say people who don't believe in the blockchain, they don't know what they're talking about, because there's so many cool applications to it that would solve a lot of problems that people actually don't even think about yet. Right, but the people who are actually studying and actually in that space actually know that there's all these new things and all these cool things and all these dope applications to the blockchain that will change everything about the planet and all, like how we live, especially in Africa with corruption and all that stuff.
But I think the easiest way to explain the blockchain is it's not a currency, it's software. Like blockchain is software. If you think about it that way, it makes sense.
Yeah,
like
that's true,
it's the same way like, I don't know, any like Android is software, you can do anything with it, right? You can apply to different things, and it has a infinite amount of applications. Same way blockchain is software, because I think we started with Bitcoin, and because Bitcoin was simply currency and it didn't have the ability to do anything other than currency, people are like stuck to the currency notion of the blockchain. Whereas like if you look at the spectrum of what blockchain does, it's actually it's software in that it allows you to track data permanently. It also allows you to automate systems within itself. So that's like the simplest.
True, because like what you were saying, like imagine a situation where for elections in Kenya, you don't have to worry about your vote not counting, because you can track every single vote, where it came from, where it went. In the context of for the refugee camps, apart from the voting context, what was another application?
Currencies, mainly for currency. So, for example, like you, like giving out money. You give them wallets, like crypto wallets, right? So they can. It's like they tokenize things. So it's easy. It's from a currency perspective. Like so within the refugee camps, you can work on with like crypto as a currency instead of like physical monetary things. And it makes it easy as well for you to track like transactions and things like that. I mean, I mean, there's so many. In Japan, they use it for voting on things within the city and things like that. And in Europe, they use it for like tracking. I don't know how. Like the cops use it for tracking like drugs and things. It's like it has like so many. In Brazil, they use it to track. Is it in the parliament?
Oh, really?
Yeah, they use it in parliament. I don't. It's like there's so many different applications of it. It's like
interesting. Okay, cool, very cool. And then so you did that, and then for undergrad, that was your master's, obviously, and I know that. And then what did you do for undergrad?
Interior design. It is not interior decorating.
Kenyans don't understand the difference.
I do not pick curtains. Interior design, I guess, it's easy to explain as interior architecture. So you deal with this with the architect does the shell. Think about it that way, and everything within is done by the interior designer. So I don't specialize in residential. I specialize in like corporate and hospitality stuff. So it's like if you think about you have an office, I'm doing everything from figuring out are we blowing up walls and putting them back up. I'm coordinating with the electrical engineers and making sure like the lighting scapes and the plans and the power and communication layouts make sense, and that your servers in your server room is probably like properly and adequately set up for you and things like that, because it has an effect of how the interior space looks like. And a lot of automation is happening right now because especially if you're trying to be a sustainable business, right? So what you do is like your lighting controls are controlled through the server room, because it means that you have occupancy sensors and things like that in different. So it's like there's a level of programming that goes into that, and we are the people who then tell the electrical engineers like, okay, these hallways are occupancy censored within the rooms. You know, these are the thermometers.
Wait, what does occupancy censored mean?
It means that the lights can basically sense if there's someone.
Oh, okay,
so when
I see. Of course, that makes
right.
sense.
So instead of having switches, most common like hallway areas would tend to be occupancy censored, because then it doesn't make sense for you to like. And then also, you know, there's a thing of like after a certain hour, all of them go out, and then you can only use your table lamp unless you like override. So there's a level of like we tell them how to do it. So there's that coordination happening with the electrical engineers, and then obviously everything from like everything that needs to be custom within the space, like custom furniture, custom, you know, custom lighting and artworks and accessories, and working with environmental graphics, which has to do with like, if you think about, I think the easiest way to explain it is in malls, you never know where to go without environmental graphics. Right?
What do you mean by know where to go? So I thought there's like, that whole map that tells you exactly where to go.
That's what environmental graphics is.
Interesting.
So basically, if you took out any signage at a mall and you just left people to be, or at an airport,
true.
Then you would not have environmental graphics. But then when it comes to, there's like additional stuff. And it comes to retail, for example, because environmental graphics is like people with ideas design, or like if you go to an Apple store, then they don't, like there's a look and feel they're going for, and the environmental graphics is heavily reliant on screens, right? Whereas like if you go to Honey and Doors, there's like
that is now closed, I think.
Oh, it's called Botanica now, or something. It's been rebranded. It's called Botanica. Same branding. Literally the sign changed. So like those guys, like the sign.
Hopefully they also changed their menus. Because the food was not good, in my opinion. Some of it was not good. Sometimes it was good.
Yeah, so I couldn't tell.
As we went with L'Oreal, when I was working at L'Oreal, it was like half of the meals at the table were fire, half of the meals were bad. That's how it was, which was very interesting. For the price point, I mean, I wasn't paying, so I don't care. But
my mama closed, by the way.
Yeah, but see, because that person owns the government $520 million Kenya shillings.
Yeah, but it's not because of that. I just think that they had a trash menu, and if they just committed to getting a new chef and changing their menu.
And then that person is skipped
ugali fries. I'm telling you that.
Weird. It's very weird. I've had those, they're weird. It's super weird. It's like, because ugali is good the way it is. It's like the perfect meal trying to be destroyed.
No, you know, I thought they were onto something, to be honest.
Really?
You know that feeling of like, you've cooked an ugali, and then the crispy bottom.
Yes.
Do you know that you scrape?
But that's like organic.
Like you see, I was like, okay, they're trying to replicate that like crisp thing. I was like, it could have caught on. I don't know how they could have done it really to make it. I think if they were selling that, okay, we can discuss. But cutting ugali into fries.
So I've had it was at Jay's, which is also close hilarious. So it seems there's a trend of anytime you try to fry ugali,
It doesn't always.
doesn't end well. But that place, Jay's used to have something. What did I eat? Can't remember. It was something like that, and it was the worst decision I ever made because it was the side, obviously.
Yeah.
So but like the food, apart from that, everything was good.
I'm just gonna say this for any restaurateur out there: don't try to be innovative.
Find the thing people are already doing. For example,
Like,
actually
don't do
talking
this.
about that, like Nairobi Street Kitchen, right? We have already said this, and I'm saying it again. They have Peruvian. Is it you're saying there is Peruvian what?
They
The
have
fusion
a
is what?
Peruvian fusion. They have also this weird Portuguese something.
So the point is this
Indian fusions.
all
and then
these
Mexican
fusions,
fusion.
like all the fusion stuff is good as long as they go together, right? But the point is, a place like Nairobi Street Kitchen should be like a place in West Palm where I grew up, where I went to school, in college, called Grandview Public Market. You can go on their Instagram right now. It's just called Grandview Public Market. It's the exact same concept, right? Except that there, what they did is the innovative food was a different spin to food you already know that is good. So, for example, there was a Cuban place. They make Cuban sandwiches. Everybody knows, like in Florida, everybody already knows those things, right?
Yeah.
So it's gonna do well. Plantain, so you can't find it everywhere in West Palm, but at Grandview Public Market, at a higher price, you'll find it at the Cuban place. They used to have gnocchi, which is fried. I can't remember what. Like it was normal things that like pickled onions instead of regular onions in the taco. So it was still things but like elevated to higher levels, right? And that's what I think they should have done. Like for example, I think if Grandview Public Market did like poke bowls, they did like acai bowls and stuff like that, I think it would kill. They would do really well. But it seems that a lot of people want to innovate in spacing and food and stuff like that, but it's sometimes keeping it simple
There's
is
a
the
spot
easiest
at
thing.
Nairobi Street Kitchen. I don't understand who eats there, but it's like I swear it's like it has the logo is like a milk thing.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be like is it vegan or like I think it's a vegan place.
Interesting.
Or like, but their food selection is trash. Like I think, correct me if I'm wrong. It's this one in the corner, next to the Portuguese place, which also I would only advise you go there to, like,
To
not
what?
eat.
to not eat. To be fair, Nairobi Street Kitchen is good only
To
on
drink,
Thursdays.
not
It's so
to
funny.
eat.
Like to get
To
drinks.
drink,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
to
yeah.
eat.
It's
The
good
only
on
place
Thursdays.
that's good there is like if you're eating outside, the burger joint. If you're eating at the
So the normal stuff.
I would the Mexican place. I don't recommend. Their taco is like this size, guys. The greatest, my favorite place there is the Thai place. That's it. You want your Thai noodles, Thai fusion. It makes sense.
Thanks.
Get your Thai stuff and the other the Kenyan fusion, whatever.
Right, Kenyan what fusion?
I don't know. It's a Kenyan fusion. It's street
So
food.
funny.
It's like a spin on masala fries or like a spin.
I see.
Like-
So that's not bad to be fair.
Yeah.
That's so funny that people are doing that. And then when you did undergrad, you were doing interior design stuff. You went to SCAD, which is a dope school. Obviously, it's the number one school still in interior design. Which is how hard was it? I remember when you were me, I was in college, relaxing. You were there suffering.
First to say it stands for sleep comes after death. It was I mean hardest experience of my life. Also, I guess I don't know how to explain it. You know, I think there's it can't be who is there's a book quote, guys. Remind me who said this, but it was the best of times, it was the worst of times.
Mhm.
I can't remember. Is it in the
I
Tale
know
of
what
Two
you're saying.
Cities?
Yeah, yeah.
I
I've
feel
read
like it's
that.
in the Tale of Two Cities.
Mhm.
But it was the worst of times, it was the best of times. It's like it's mutually it's both and it was hard simply because you were held to a professional standard.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference between SCAD
Them
and
and, like,
any
other people, yeah,
other
to-
educational system that you go through, because I think most universities don't like care to teach you theory, and,
Mhm.
and SCAD didn't care to teach you theory. They were like, this is a school of creative careers, and the moment you walk in, you're a professional and you move as such. And I think also, I also have a feeling that like when you pay a lot for your education, you value it more. I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah,
Because
probably true.
SCAD is the only place where I remember people would catch feelings. Like, you know how in uni, most times if a teacher
Just keep
misses
quiet.
class,
Yeah.
people are like,
It's so
great.
good, it's
People will be
great.
like, yeah, this is $250. You understand what I'm saying? He better do a makeup class because I done already paid for this. Or like if somebody, if you're like a student, was like doing mediocre work and like was not performing, my gosh, they'd be like basically shunned and shamed, because they were like, so you're going to go out in the industry, spoil the interior design name already because they think we're decorators, but now you're going to go there and actually be trash so that we can have a terrible experience as designers out in the streets. So people are like very protective of their craft in a way, and I think it's kind of the culture that made it so that it was like somewhat harder to do. Also, we had like we didn't have semesters. We had quarters, which is harder because
like a job.
It's like so it's like four you do 4 weeks midterms, 4 weeks go, and then you're done. So we used to have December free, and the idea was for you to get an internship during your December break. So they actually give you like a full month to be able to do something. But if you think about it, school in 8 weeks, and you have to cram all that content in 8 weeks, mad. It's
true.
It's not supposed to be survivable.
Yeah.
But I think there's a pace to it that's necessary. And I think if you're doing an art school anywhere, that pace makes sense because that's the pace of the workplace, and that's the unfortunate part.
But it's good. So that means it's just good prep for what you're going to be doing at work and everything. So which is chill. Because so obviously that was schooling and everything. Then post schooling, you tried to look for work, like all of us peasants.
No, my God, let me tell you.
And the worst part is you went to a good school. Like you see me, me it was like, maybe it's because the school I went to or whatever. But you went to a really, really good school and you got awards at SCAD and all these things. But
literally, it was the worst.
Anybody trying to hire you.
The percentage success rate was 98%. So it used to be 98% of SCAD graduates either get employed or get a graduate degree, right? I was not trying to get a graduate degree at that time. I was like, I'm not going to do a master's degree in interior design.
What's the value anyways?
There's none, literally. It's literally learning the same exact stuff. Once you know interior design, you know interior design. There's nothing. Anything you can do is like, experience makes you a better interior designer, but getting a master's doesn't. There's no new information you're getting there that's going to do anything unless you're doing some weird, even if you're doing a thesis that's like, there's no thesis that will do. Because in undergrad, we did a thesis. It was a 6-month thesis. Yeah. So I don't understand why you then go and do a master's degree that's also another thesis. It's just basically the same thing you did in your undergrad, but like over a longer span of time. Doesn't make sense. And you don't really specialize in interior design. It's not a thing. I mean, so we used to say 2%, like nobody wanted to be part of the 2% that didn't make it, you're like, we're going to do everything to not be part of that category. But lo and behold, actually I got a job offer in New York.
Why didn't you take it? I don't remember this.
No, I did get a job offer in New York. But my OPT hadn't come. OPT is like you get like
work
1
permit
year
post,
work permit.
Yeah.
It hadn't come in, and I had the interview in June.
Yeah,
so basically they were not willing to wait until it potentially came in August in order to hire me, and I was like, that's how New York went, just like that.
Thanks for that one.
And then every other firm was like, yeah, we are not hiring internationals. We are not hiring internationals. Great stuff.
You came to West Palm, looked for work there, you were in Atlanta, you went to Miami.
There's that time I had an interview in Atlanta. Which other place? I had another interview in West Palm. They were like, oh my gosh, your resume, your portfolio, great work. However, you're international, but we wanted to bring you in because we just loved your content and stuff. Like,
what's the point?
Now met me.
What's the point? Like, that's not helpful. That's so funny. So it basically led to a 1-year sabbatical. I wanted sabbatical. Sure. Yeah. I guess the silver lining at the time was that when my work permit came in August and I didn't have a job, and I mean, there was nothing to it. I think that is when I was like, that's when SCAD contacted me. They're like, oh, this project you did, got an award, red dot award. So we're willing to fund like half of your trip to Singapore. You have to find the rest of the money. Wow.
So that's how I just went, like I just exited to Singapore and then back to Africa.
Abidjan. Côte d'Ivoire, Abidjan. Very interesting. So for you, by the way, were you bummed? Did you not care? Did you care that much? Did you know that Africa is the future?
No, I did not know that Africa. I knew that Africa was the future, but the plan was to work in the US for a year and then transition to Africa. Right? It was never to not do that. So I transitioned, did the thing. I went to Singapore. Actually, I didn't even enjoy my Singapore experience because I was just so over it. I think I was especially burnt out from SCAD, to be honest. True. I was living I don't know, a zombie. I just didn't have. It was just the worst. I was on autopilot, and then I don't know. It was weird. When I went to Singapore, I didn't know how big of a deal it was. To be fair.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, So when did you realize?
When I arrived at the event.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there at the event, and I thought it was like a student award. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's category for industrial design, Mercedes. I said, what? Philips. I was like,
that's so funny.
That's what I was like.
Hilarious.
Oh, this real.
This is
it's not for students.
Yeah, we ain't playing.
That's
so funny.
I was like, how are we in the category?
Word.
How did we
Wait, and what category did you win?
We won for green design.
And was it the hotel thing?
No. It was the furniture. So we had done this furniture piece and worked with I had a minor in design for sustainability, which is a whole other subtopic altogether. But it's if you have a CSR team, I am that guy. If you work in product development and you're looking at how do you optimize for this, what we call, it's called the circular economy, which means that you use a raw product, the customer consumes it, and it becomes a raw product again.
Then it comes back again.
You understand?
Makes sense.
So a lot of it was product. What is it called? Product. Not product. Material knowledge, as in understanding different new types of materials. For example, you can make a chair like this, a plastic like this, out of artichoke. Right? Artichoke can make plastic, or carrot as well. Right? So it's looking at innovative applications of materials was part of it, and then also looking at because it's such a weird major because it applies to everything, because you can work in furniture, you can work in fashion. I did a product and it was a kids poncho, and it was around the idea that first of all, kids outgrow stuff all the time, and fast fashion is a problem at the same time. So in order to reduce the wastage of materials and stuff that end up going in land waste, how can you create not a raincoat for kids that grows with them over the span of years, right? And how would you modify that and make it so that it's reusable in essence, right? So that was also another product that we won an award for. It was C2C something, C2C. Cradle to Cradle. It was I think it was in material innovation something. Guys, it's been so long I can't remember. Some of these things, I just put them on my resume to just be
word. Yeah. I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. That's cool. So then you leave, you go to Abidjan. By the way, during this whole time, I'm looking for work in the US as I'm trying to figure out, okay, I did finance, I live with my spam. My spam's big finance hub, just because a lot of people who vacation in Nantucket, all the rich people in America, basically where they go to West Palm for holidays. So I applied to all these places, same thing as that. You have done this, you've done that, but we can't give you a job because you're international. I was even supposed to be put in part of a batch of people to one Chick-fil-A franchise in the US, which was crazy. I was super hype, did all the interviews, and then as soon as I did the interview, quiet. Nothing. So same experience or acceptable. So I was a double major in international business and finance. Then I did my MBA. It was an okay school. I like my school. To be fair, I think it's the best decision I ever made, anyways, because the people I met there. But I think it made it so that our paths were kind of intertwined towards the end, anyways.
It's true. Because actually we stayed with you for months.
For a few months. Was trying to look forward.
I used to sleep all day, wake up at 5, walk to Starbucks. at 5 p.m. His roommate used to be like, "What's wrong with this chick?" And then go to Starbucks until it closed at like 10, just doing applications, and then rinse, repeat every single day.
So,
And the stats work, but they don't get you. They get you the job.
No, the ratio is 1 to.
No, for every 100
1
jobs.
to 100.
1 to 100.
So it's 1 to 100.
For
So I
every
think for
100
jobs you get
10.
You get 10 replies, but I'm saying like I think
Is
they
it
were saying
1
the
to
hit
10?
rate is 1 to. No, I think it's even worse than that. I can't remember. I was saying it the other day. Jordan Peterson said it. I forget what the number. So he was saying basically you shouldn't be discouraged. You just realize that it's you and everybody. You're doing the same thing. You're applying to 100 jobs. You're getting this many responses. Out of those responses, you're getting 2 interviews. Out of those 2 interviews, you are 1 of 2, and then maybe you won't get it. And so you have to do it in over and over again. So maybe you have to apply to 600 jobs
to get the thing.
before you get the thing.
That's why I'm like, if you're on these streets stomaching,
Just
looking
do it.
for work,
It's just hard work.
It's just hard work. It's actually, I think interviewing is like applying for work is work. I don't know how to explain it otherwise. It's like a full-time job essentially. And if you feel like you've applied to 50 jobs and you haven't got it, you haven't done enough.
You've only done half of the work.
You've only done half the work. Like it's not even.
And to be fair, LinkedIn makes it easy in doing the easy thing. In the LinkedIn easy application or whatever. That one's good because I think it allows you to be able to not have to worry about like if it's a company that accepts that, you can apply to as many jobs as possible using that and you'll be able to get something hopefully and get an interview. And then that's so funny. So you go to Ivory Coast. What are you doing in Ivory Coast?
I'm doing nothing. I am doing nothing. You know, I was doing nothing for a really long time. I actually tried to apply to for work at this firm that it's called Kofi Diabate. I had stalked him prior, I think 2 years prior.
Stalking sounds kind of crazy.
Not stalked him, but like I stalked him. Yeah, I did. But stalked him, like stalked his work and like his workplace, not in a shady way, you understand? But I was like,
see the work you're doing.
My dad used to work there, and there was an August that I was like, I tried to go to his office. I tried
by
to
there she means in Ivory Coast.
In Ivory Coast, yeah. So I tried to like get an interview. Interestingly, he did give me a tour. I swear I remember this very vaguely in my brain, but I contacted him.
Yeah, I remember you saying something like
on
that.
LinkedIn, and 2 years before, and he actually was like, "Oh, our offices are not open. It's August. Everybody's on break. But like, if you wanna come in, I'll give you a tour, whatever." So I did the tour thing. So I was like, "Oh, I have a foot in if I apply for a job here." But they mainly do architecture, even though like some component of interiors that they do, but like that's maybe what it is. So I was like, "Okay, I have a foot in. Nothing, nada." So that was November. Towards February, I was like, I need to find something to do with my life. So my dad was like, maybe you need to find like what are all these other people doing, that what is a skill set that these employers are looking for that you don't have, and you can work towards like building that part of your repertoire. So a lot of the job postings were like LEED certified, which is like a green building accreditation thing. So I decided I'm gonna study for that and trying to get certified as a lead. Wow, green associate. That's what it's called. And then the test was the only testing center was in Ghana, so I had to fly. I don't know how long I said for it, but it must have been 3 months or something like that. And then I flew to Ghana to take the test, and then flew back. In the meantime, I think I was doing nothing interesting. Halfway through it though, I figured that God had just sent me there to be like humbled or something. I was like, it's trying to like.
Were you humbled? That's the real question.
No, it's humbled me. To be fair, I was like, this sucks. I was just like, I knew it was supposed to be a humbling experience. It was just so annoying. And then at some point halfway through, I was like, what am I doing? Like I literally have nothing I'm doing. So I decided, I don't know, I was like, let me start teaching Sunday school.
And that's a gap between school, like undergrad and masters.
And masters, yeah. So I was like, let me start teaching Sunday school for and see how that goes. Because the thing is, I always say like, if you don't know what to do, the last thing God told you to do. And I was like, really, you want me to come teach children? Is that like a whole scan graduate? Is that what you want me to do? So I answered.
Them.
So I was like, whatever. Begrudgingly, I did that. Ironically, that's what got me my next job, because I think there was a lady who used to work in church, and she was a lawyer, right? And she was like, she saw like how dedicated I was to like the stuff, and like how I changed the program, and like really worked with the kids. Like I used to do like choreography with the kids after church and stuff, and like I hyped the stuff up a bit. I just made it more relevant to the youth. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, we don't need to be singing hymns, like we need to be like
something fun, chill. But that's because that's what we grew up on anyways.
Yeah, and like adding choreography and like doing worship that's actually like interesting and engaging, and actually engaging with kids, which I think Africans are terrible and trash at, to be fair. Like Africans are like, this kid is overreacting, let us beat him. Like that's like the basis of African education, right? Whereas like me, I was coming in, I was like, I was doing the long work that nobody wants to do, which is like, I started this whole thing where we have this fruits of the spirit song: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, and stuff. And so the kids started to internalize this stuff. So the mode of correction was not, we're going to like beat you, or I'm going to report you to your mother. And it was more like...
That's exactly what the default is, to be fair.
It was more like which fruit which fruit can you add to your basket? Like which fruit is represented here? Which fruit are you not doing, right? So like it gave the kids kind of like language to be able to like process their behavior in like a positive way, instead of like being like, So point is, long story short, she sent an application. She told me that this guy's coming and they need a job. they need somebody to work for them. She didn't even tell me what they wanted, to be honest. Like, she didn't tell me the company, she didn't tell me what I was going to be doing, she told me nothing. She literally told me, just give me your resume and I'll pass it on. So I was like, okay, fantastic. I passed it on. She's like, oh, they like your resume. So she now gave me the job application. So when I got the job application, I was like, Pixera Global? Interesting. Fun fact, my professor had told me, my design for sustainability professor, when we graduated, he had given us a list of companies that we would be great to work with. Pixera Global is a kind of like non-profit that works in DC, and they work, I don't know how to explain this. They work with companies as part of their CSR project in third world countries to help SMEs. I don't know if I'm making sense, but so. They had come on campus and I'd been able to attend that round of interviews. So I was like, Pixera is in Ivory Coast. Of all places, it was the first time ever coming, and they were working with SAP, and they needed a project assistant because they needed somebody that was both bilingual and could translate. Lo and behold, what was I doing at church with the children? Translating. I was like, see God, he did walk. So I'm like, do you have translating experience? I was like, yes. It's actually, honestly, I did that interview. I've never had an interview like that, because halfway through the interview, you know how like an interviewer asks you questions? Halfway through, he was like, I don't know why I'm asking you questions, you're hired. Like, he was like, great work. Like, I understand, like, this feels quite pointless. You were the candidate for this.
Interesting.
And that's how I got into...
But I didn't know you worked there. I didn't know the name of the company.
With Pixera Global. And so what they had, like, their top executives from across the world. So they had an African-American guy from the States. They had a German lady, a Dutch lady. Yes, I think there were 3 on my team. There was a bigger team, obviously, of other executives, but like there were other project assistants who were working on different projects. And ironically, the project I was assigned to was called Babi Lab. Babi is like the colloquial way of calling Abidjan. And it was about helping kids who are coding in the slums and creating curriculum and stuff for them. Once again, I was teaching Sunday school, doing what? Creating curriculum. My thesis in my interior design thesis was about it was actually based in Ivory Coast, and it was about integrating like SMEs and coding together. But partially it had like a hotel component and business. But it kind of came together. Like my thesis and like my experience came together to merge into this one job. So once I started seeing the kids coding, and I was like, it's doable. And that's why I started like because they were using the kids had created an app to track trash within the city, right? So they would, you know how African cities are tend to not be like well managed, so you'll have these like massive dumps of waste, and so the kids were like, what's it called, inventorying them or like tracking the waste in a way, and they were learning to code and creating this, geolocating this waste and stuff like that. And so that's kind of how I was like, oh, interesting. There can be a coding application to urban planning. And that's how I kind of got into
doing the other stuff.
Into my master's.
So then you do your master's in Spain.
Yeah.
Tons of work in it. It was at a sort of scandal, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, actually, to be fair, it was hard because you had to do coding and stuff. I forgot about that. To be fair, it was hard.
It depends. It had its own version of hardness, I think. Especially because it was a 1-year course. You had to code. And you had a crash course a week before.
Oh, that's crazy.
Like
but to be fair, I've been trying to learn how to code, and I get, like, there's some stuff that's easy, but the things you're doing, I know, was not the basic stuff. It was not like, because you have to kind of use like how to scrape data from where to do this.
I mean, to be fair, they helped us because they had a lot of base code that was set up, but like the whole problem was finding the like innovative ways to use the data. That's like because you can do anything with data sets, but like finding applications for the data set is like the hardest part of it. And urban data analytics is just like a whole different beast in itself.
That's so funny.
So it was hard. It was its own hard. It was its own hard. There are some nights you're like, it is 11. We have a presentation in the morning. Nothing. And
you have to figure out how to do it. It's true, by the way. That was pretty crazy. I remember that. So then you come back to Kenya. You work at a place called PIL, Planning Interiors Limited, even in Obon.
Yep.
So you died there as well. Your life is just dying.
No, it is dying. I think I chose death by definition.
Is it because interior design jobs are death?
No.
By default, or is it the places you worked at that they're like that, or is it your personality that enhances and makes it so that things are like that? So are there people who went to SCAD, for example, who like they got B classes, I guess, survived, and they hung out
there's first of all, I'm not the quickest at anything. So pace-wise, I mean, you can beat me there any day. That's just facts, right? So it takes me longer to do something than the average human, especially if it has to do with technology. So I can't do it, it's just that it's going to take me time. Also, I overthink a lot. Like, I think a lot of people, when they do stuff, they don't think about the peripherals of the consequences of doing those things. Whereas, like, for me, if you give me a design, I'm going to think about everything about that design. And if you tend to be, like, laser focused, you probably get stuff done faster than me because you just ignore the periphery and just, like, keep pushing. Whereas, like, me, I'm like, but this, but that, but this, but if you do this, So it's partially that. I think it's also partially that everything was new. Like you have a degree and to some extent you did some things, but like the Kenyan market is so different and what's required of you is so different. And I was working both as like the in-house signage and branding assistant, which is basically like the interior designers work on the brand, on the spaces, and I work on how to make the brand come out within those spaces, right? So it's a different scope of work, and it was a cool experience though because I got to work with like really great artwork, to be honest, and like curate really great artwork, and but it's just the pace of the work was just
That's true.
And because the one thing I'm gonna tell you is Kenyan interior design is so different from American design because in America, people have an understanding of what it takes to design a space. Example is like when Google sent their RFP and they sent their timelines, they were giving you like 3 months for design development. I was like, what are these? October to January? What is happening? A Kenyan is going to come to your office and be like, so can we see designs next week? They're dead serious, by the way. Dead serious. It's not a joke. It's not a drill. It's expected. It's how it is. I remember there's a time, but towards the end I caught on because there was a time we were doing a project and you had like 4 space plans in a week. Initially you're like, how now? But then you just, I guess the pace of it. So the pace of it was really like
Cool.
What
Interesting.
so
So then doing
but I
that
also
same
chose to do the Hodge thing. Like the easier choice was to go to a like easy design firm
Yeah.
that doesn't give you work,
Mm.
right? Or you go to the place where you're going to be overwhelmed, but what it means is you lessen your work experience. Like, I think it depends on what type of person you are. Me, I was like, I don't want to work for 5 years to get this experience. I'd rather die for 2 years and get the experience I need.
True, yeah. So you were there for years, to be fair. During that same time, me, I've come back to Nairobi and she's doing her master's. I'm looking for work. I think for a year, I didn't do any work. Was it a year? I think it was maybe less than that. I think it was a little bit less. I think it was, because I came back in October. No, it was post Thanksgiving. So it was November something. Then I did November, December, January, February, March, April, May. And then in June, I got work at L'Oreal. I applied. I met some chida at the club. She was super nice. She heard me speak French because I was singing Angelina. I don't know, can't remember how we figured out. No, it was no. Oh, Jaja, y'a pas moyen, Jaja, Jean. So she just heard and then she was like, yeah. So I was speaking in French. So she heard that. Then she was like, hey, what are you doing in Nairobi? Just started talking, just because French speaking people, right? Then I was like, yeah, I work in finance, looking for work. She's like, wait, I work at L'Oreal and they're looking for work. I didn't believe her. I said, there's no way. L'Oreal in Kenya giving me work, me turn Zuma. So she gave me her number and told me to call, right? I thought she was trying to hit on me. So I said, no, I ain't gonna call her. So I didn't call her, right? Then I see her again at another time. I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks later. She's like, I say hi and then she's like, you know, I give you my number so you can call me, so you can send me your resume and you didn't. Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I don't know. She's like, this is the last chance I'm giving you. So then she gave me, so she gave me her number and she said, call me tomorrow. So I think I met her I'd seen her on a Friday, I called her on Saturday. And then I say, hey, it starts, actually I was calling her in town. Because I had to go to town, I'm doing this and the other. Remember me from last night? How should I send my resume? Because she had given me her card. So I sent her my resume, right? Only to realize once I get the interview, only to realize that she's head of R&D. So me, I was just taking the piss. Like, I don't understand what I was thinking. So I applied. So I apply. I didn't have to apply actually. She just gave them my resume. They're like, we like what his resume looks like. I interviewed with the CFO and the head of the one who's in charge of the finance team. And then I got the job, which was crazy, right? So we finished those things. I worked at L'Oreal. I liked the experience on average. I liked the people. I didn't like the work. I realized. So then somewhere in between, when I was in Kenya, this is what happened. So this is where we get to what Nala, who is actually my co-founder and another friend of ours whose name is Njuge, who is our third co-founder. What we're working on now, the startup we're working on. So I wake up one day. All my friends in the US have gotten married, right? And so the first event I came to Kenya was a wedding, and then I realized, wait, it seems super inefficient, right? So in American context, let's say you want a gift. What normally happens is this: my friend Drew, when he was getting married, he sends you a link to Zola, the Knot, or whatever, right? Then you click on it. After you click on it, what happens? You can be able to just select whatever you want. So if you're a peasant, like I was, you're buying the toothpaste, not toothpaste, like the cutlery, the towels and stuff. Bougie people, right? What are you gonna put there? Maybe you'll buy an appliance or two, the Dyson, maybe them they had experience as well. So you can buy an experience for them, right? So I was like, okay, that's kind of cool that's happening. Then I come to Kenya, it's inefficient. When you're trying to do something, it's like super slow. So I was thinking about it for some time. I'd actually even had some other ideas of things I was going to build, but I didn't believe in my competency, right? Then if you look to the episodes, on the first episode of this podcast, I was talking to my friend Gabriel, right? And Gabriel basically talked about father wounds and how sometimes your dad did not do anything but to you, but because of the DNA of who he is, the way he moved through life, you have some things you're gonna pick up. One of those things is in our family, it's having tons of ideas and never executing on them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's been a big problem. Is that I think my dad would have built some super dope stuff. He's just very risk averse. Number one, and obviously you know how the older guys in African context were. Like most of you are not looking into business. you're looking more into.
And you're also trying to
working
like
with
just get your family together first.
Yeah, exactly. And he works at the African Development Bank as a diplomat anyway. So like for him, like that's peace. Like that's so much money. You're doing really well. Like it's more money than you ever imagined you would have, and more money than you ever seen in your life. So for you, like you made it, you're good, right?
There's no reason to quit on all of that to become an entrepreneur.
Exactly,
Doesn't make sense.
right? Because the risk, it's high risk, high reward, right? So at some point. I was leaving, it was last year, I was like, okay, I need to leave lawyer. I was actually planning to quit by the end of the year, right? My wife didn't want me to quit, but I was not having it. So, and by the way, when we were getting married as well, it was a problem. Well, the whole thing, my sister had to, what do you have to do actually? Explain to them what the hustle was and how we realized, even you are like, yeah, it seems this is an issue.
You gave a list, you send it to WhatsApp. I send the list to my parents. My parents send the list
to friends all over around the world, not just one group.
To their friends. Then at some point, for the guys in Ghana, I started having to send the list one.
Why?
Because I couldn't add them in a group chat. Do you know how awkward that is to just have like random people in a group chat, like selecting gifts, right?
Yeah.
So they had to now.
Why did you just create a like Terence's wedding group chat and then you had all the aunties, all the things? It was just inefficient, like.
No, I just felt like, you know how Africans be private about stuff.
Word. They don't want. Okay, the way the Kenyan people.
Kenyans are mad. They be like, nobody wants to know that you
bought
gave this, you bought
true,
this, you bought that, and you know, especially like in circles that we know and like our parent circles with people we grew up in, there's a level of like, you don't want people to know what you can afford and what you can't afford to give, and like, you gave this one, gave a fridge, this one gave a dining set.
Yeah.
This, you know, like, so I was just like, I feel like people.
So you have to do it one by one. That's mad.
So for the guys abroad, I had to do it one by one, and then for the other guys, you're just like going through the list. I don't like, our parents had the list and then they did the list with their friends and their friends picked stuff. But then Stacy's parents also had the list of stuff and their friends were picking stuff from there. So there was the stuff that like the uncles and stuff already said, okay, we're getting this. So that made it easy. It was just, I don't know, it didn't make sense. But
so it was a whole process, basically.
It was, okay, to say it was coordinated is an overstatement. So the list was sent and people used it. That's about it. It's like
there was no way to track who got what, who did this. It was more efficient than it normally is, but it was a problem. So then we were like, okay, what do we do? So I talked to my dad and I was like, hey dad, I'm trying to build this thing that is going to be our wedding gift registry for Africa, and after doing some research, we didn't see any prominent one in Africa, right? So then my dad's like, okay, what name do you have? We didn't know. My dad's like the goat of names. If you ever want a name for a business, just ask him. So he came up with Doros. Doros means gift in Greek, right? So what we're building is this, and this is basically the main concept of Doros. Doros is an online wedding registry platform, right, where couples will be able to select the gifts that they want, right? Yeah. Send a link to their friends and family. And through the link, you're able to choose, okay, this is what I want to select for this person. It will be removed from the registry because it's already been purchased, right? Then once it's purchased, you're good. Because now it solved the problem of, okay, who purchased this and who didn't purchase this.
Then we deliver at your convenience.
At your convenience, whatever you want.
Essentially what happens typically is you go to the honeymoon and then you might give your key to your friend or yours. And they'll figure out how to like
deliver and everything,
you out. Or you go to the honeymoon and then you're told, oh, you have a gift in Carrefour. Then you go to Carrefour, get that gift, go out when they're delivering it. Okay, it's on Wednesday. Then you said to go to Hotpoint. Then you say, okay, is this one there? When are you delivering it? Next Saturday. Then you go to
it's a whole process, no, it's true.
And then you figure out, you go to Naivas.
So we coordinate all of that. And that's basically what Doros is. And then moving forward.
No, but let's not forget we have a guest management system as well. So that like you can send invites, right? First of all, it's free.
You can manage your guests, actually.
So you don't gotta buy paper and stuff. And once you've sent the invites, you can manage your RSVP. So you know these are the guys that are coming, these are the guys that are coming.
Yeah.
You know. Makes the process
nice, simple, and easier, because now it's basically managed to Excel and stuff.
And the RSVP is linked to your gifting. So it's like you get the gift, you get the invite, you also get the gift list.
The gift list, so you're gonna be able to select and choose from at your convenience. And if you don't have the money, nobody knows what you purchased, but nobody knows who purchased what. If you want to, you can mention who you are, but you don't have to, right? So that's the OG version or the original version of our product. What we want to build long term is our marketplace as well for couples to be able to, so that it's a one-stop shop for couples that are doing anything, right?
Yeah.
So if you're trying to get married and you want to find vendors, you want to find tents, you want to find a place that has nice grass and that makes sense for you. Maybe you want to get married in the coast, you don't know what locations are, what the price points. It's going to basically democratize the pricing of all things that are wedding, because it's very fragmented, right? Because since most people don't get married often in African context or anywhere in the world anyways, right? You normally don't know the actual price of anything. Right? So in the context of, if today somebody told you this laptop is 100 million, you can say, no, that's stupid, that can't be, right? But on the wedding context, somebody tells you tents are 150,000, you don't know context, and the context you have maybe is only your friends and family. And if your friends and family are bougie, you think 150 is the cost, right? For that specific thing. Well, there's maybe some other company that's doing 50 Gs for the exact same product, right? And so that's the long goal. We also want to be able to do cash funds, so we'll be able to basically do cash to be able to pay through cash, not through cash. Sorry, is be able to give people cash as a gift, right? And also be able to split gifts. So long term, we also want to be able to, okay, let's say a gift is 1,000 bob and you only have 500, you can pay 500, another person can pay 500, right? And so that's what we're working on. I think we'll be watching. We are the first week of October as we're recording this. We should be launching next week. That's the goal. With our co-founder, who's been great, by the way, in helping build this platform. There are some things and some items that we were trying to build that are taking longer than we thought they should be taking, right? And as always, that's basically the part of launching. But the good thing about us doing YC in the context of the YC Startup School, right, is that it allowed us to be able to have a framework for, okay, this is exactly what happens.
And then also having metrics as well, and actual metrics.
Is true.
And before I forget, one of the other things that is on the platform is not only just gifts but honeymoon packages for couples. So like you can get gifted a honeymoon package, and the good thing is like we provide an all-inclusive service, which is like we can book your tickets, whether it's a flight tickets or HGR tickets, and then we actually create an experience for you so that it's not like you get a hotel in that room and that's it. But like you can actually, there's added bonuses to the experience that you can get. And we work with a really great traveling agency.
That does really good work.
That's just fantastic. I think so. We're just trying to, I guess, offer couples like the best experience they can have as starting their lives. And then also at the same time, you have to think about it. It's like a lot of your money is spent on the wedding, right? And ideally, realistically, that's one day of your life.
Yeah.
So we're kind of here to help you figure out the rest of your life, you know, because like there's nothing worse than when you hear friends tell you like we spent money on a wedding, we all did all these things, and we came back home and we didn't have food. You know, I just saw like a really funny reel, which is like there's this couple who was like just got back from the honeymoon, checking our bank account to see if we can afford lunch.
Lord, crazy. Look at that. Madness.
I'm like,
Lord Jesus.
I was like, when I saw it,
because there's small things you forget. And then actually I was at a wedding. I don't think I told you this. There was a wedding this weekend that was last weekend that I went to, right? And what ended up happening is this. So DJ Dabolo is DJ, right? So he's doing his thing, he's DJing. Shout out to Oliver. And then at some point the music stops, right? So we're all wondering, DJ, what's wrong, DJ? This is what happened. So you're supposed to, if your place is in a residential area, what are you supposed to do?
Get a residential permit.
From who? From the EMA.
Yep.
So you know what happened?
We had to get that for you. Oh my gosh, I remember that. And the only reason we knew that is because he had a wedding planner.
So what happened? Apparently the venue place, somebody stole the money for the NEMA. They didn't pay NEMA. So NEMA came. They came, they took Dabolo's computer. And they went to the corner. So now they have to negotiate with them. There's a wedding in Italy. The whole wedding was played with low music. Right? So in order for couples to have to deal with things like that, right? We want to sort all those things out for you. Because the problem is you can't trust these people. Avoid those people, like Brooklyn Boy says.
It's true.
Avoid those people. And in Kenya, you want to find a service that basically you can trust and you can know that you'll be getting good customer service. And we're in customer service week, as a matter of fact, and I think that's kind of one of the principles we want to adopt as a company, is that we want your experience to be smooth. So if there's an issue, call us at any time, any point. We'll be able to answer, solve the problem that's at hand. If there's something that was delivered that was broken, okay, we have to figure out how we're going to be able to do this, reimburse you, get your money back, make sure that you get the best service it can. Because I think, from talking to people, I feel like some people think that customer service is not a thing African people value, but I don't think that's true. I think that Africans value customer service. The problem is they've never seen it, and since they've never seen it, they don't know that you can have it that good. So they are just okay with mediocre service from the people work with. So for you, in building this, what has been the hardest thing? Because we haven't even launched, but it's been hard. Many things is the hardest thing I've ever done. Basically, one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
The hardest thing. You know, when you're used to employment, it's like pa pa pa.
It's all structured and everything.
It's like super structured, right? Mm-hmm. I was explaining it to Stacy yesterday. It's like you don't have a job you have a job description, but you need to be proactive about other things as well. I don't know how to explain it. It's like you have a job description, but you don't have a job description.
Yeah, you do everything across the board.
You can't hire a lawyer if you want to write a contract, so you have to write the contract.
Yep.
And you have to figure out how
to do it. Yeah, it's true, because you don't have money. You don't have, and we haven't got our funding yet, right?
Yeah,
so you have to
if you ask me,
figure it out.
If you told me I'm writing supplier contracts, I'll be like, who is this? What is that?
Yep.
Typically, like privacy policies for e-commerce platforms and stuff like that, terms and conditions. Mm-hmm. Nobody reads them, but guys, I have read.
All of them.
I've read
compiled
and written
so
all
true.
of the things. I know the terms and policies.
That's true.
I know the privacy policies. I mean, honestly, it wasn't as jargony as I thought it was going to be.
Word.
So you become like a jack of all trades, in essence. Social media, now you have to become a social media manager, because ain't nobody going to do it for you.
I nobody going to do it for you. Exactly. And then I think the hardest part, and I talked about this with Bush last week, is the fact that how to incorporate, how to do it right. We are lucky that we have friends that are in this space, right? So for example, when we were incorporating, I was like, okay, I was being pushed. I remember you and Stacy were like, do it now, let's do it this up. I was lucky that I'm somebody who takes my time in a lot of things, because what is the right structure for a startup, ideally for investors to be able to invest, is this. You want to incorporate in Delaware, right, through a platform called Stripe Atlas, and then from there, I think it costs you $500, $600, depending on what things you're going to do. From there, it takes them 2 to 3 days for them to incorporate, get a social security number and everything. And by the way, you don't have to have a US address. They don't care. They can generate a random one for you to be able to use. Then, from there, you come to Kenya, get a lawyer, which by the way, I didn't know. It took me about 3 weeks to figure this out. I had to find there's a company, I'm forgetting the name of the company, but if you guys ever need that help, you can DM or let me know in the comments if you want the contact of that person. But basically, what they do is they allow you to be able to create a subsidiary in Africa, because we wanted our company to be headquartered in Kenya. And so there's a whole structure of how to incorporate a subsidiary in Africa, how it works, the difference between this and the other. Because the reason why you want to incorporate in Delaware is because investors understand Delaware really well, how to give money to you, right? You want the African context, because obviously you're African, you're trying to build an African company, so you have to have a local one. But you can't decide to incorporate however, because in part of the due diligence when they're trying to give you money, a big part of it is looking at how you are incorporated and everything. So I think for me, that's one of the, I realized that a lot of people think that building a startup is easy. And sometimes it is just the incorporating is hard.
Before we even get to building startup, I think we need to be very clear. We are not a small business.
There's a difference. There's a huge difference.
There's a difference. Because it's like a small business is just trying to
but that's not a bad thing. We're not saying it that small businesses are bad. There's a place for them, and they need to be there. They need to be there.
For example, if I start a design firm, I'm going to be a small business.
It's going to be a small business.
Do I plan on scaling like that? I don't think so. I think I want to be a boutique firm if I ever was to do anything in design, because I think you get more creative freedom that way. But that's not what we're trying to do.
No.
And because a startup is built for growth and scaling. So you are basically trying to do the impossible, which is
basically build $1 billion business. That's the goal.
Exactly. Like, because your growth rate has to be like double every month.
Basically.
Which is like,
it's madness. It's crazy. The metrics that are used are pretty intense, and I think that's a good thing for people to understand is that okay, these metrics are hard and complicated, but that's part of it. It's like that's what they're paying for because our VC firm, right, venture capital. For those people who don't know, are trying to make money off of the idea. By the way, they're also guessing, right? Most of these guys don't know what they're like. There is no real formula to find the next Uber, the next Facebook, the next whatever, right? It's about basically looking at the founders, saying, okay, this guy seems like they know how to build something, right? And since they know how to build something, and they look like they're competent, let's give them our money. Most of their portfolios, I think it's 10% of the businesses that they basically invest in, basically make their big most of the money of their revenue, right? But that's just the Pareto distribution. That's just how it is in the world overall, anyways. But I think, and then the other thing, I think that a misconception they have too is funding in Africa, right? I think a lot of our friends, when we started talking about this stuff, were like, okay, make sure you have a white co-founder, make sure you have somebody
who's gonna give you money for a business that has no proof. I was like, somebody will, because the point is it's a startup, because it's not the same thing as a small or a medium-sized business, right? Because that's the difference, is that it's optimized for growth, built for that, so that if you're talking to VCs, right, which we are now, some of them are interested, some of them are just quiet, and you just still send them updates and stuff. They'll give you money, and there's actually a lot of money being given out in Africa right now compared to even Europe. Right now in Europe and the US, venture capital funding has stagnated, right? It's not that big. Like this month has been a pretty big month too for VCs giving out money, right? Or acquisitions and stuff like that. So, and Nigeria, I think Nigeria gets the most funding in that. Nigeria has like, I think 60 to 70% of their founders are Nigerians. Like they're Nigerians. They're not white people. They're not expats. So the misconception that you need to have a white co-founder for your business to work is just untrue. Yeah. I think you are advantageous to use LinkedIn as a way to get in on mixers and things that are happening, so that you can understand. The other misconception is that the people giving you money are white. They are not. No, they're young like you. They're young and black and African. Yeah. It's actually the truth. So don't go out there. So don't be discouraging people thinking like, oh no, we're going to be pitching to some white folk out here in the streets.
Really that's what not it looks like anymore.
Most VCs I've met are below the age of 40.
Yeah, it's true.
I have not met even 35.
Maybe one, 30. Maybe one or two. But it's like 30. It's early, like mid to late 30s. That's it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's not old people. It's actually young people. And it makes sense because the guys probably understand the market and understand the industry. And we want to make like concise decisions about things because they also understand like what's happening in the generation, right? You don't want to have somebody who's 60 and out of date on whatever is happening on the ground to be giving people any type of funding. So I think that's like another massive misconception. Yeah. The other massive misconception I think is that you have to have organic co-founding relationships. We posted on LinkedIn. And
that's how we got a third co-founder. It's true.
Third co-founder, and everyone was like, "Who's gonna come and work?"
Actually, one of our interview, that's what he told us.
Like you're asking somebody to come and work full time for no money, but you're just giving them 30% equity in your business.
Yeah. Nobody's going to do that.
Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to work for free. Nobody's going to work for equity. Nobody's going to work for equity, especially when you have a cliff as part of your equity, which basically means that you work with us for a year. Yes. If you don't like what you're doing here and you leave, you get nothing. If you don't like how you're working with us and you live in that context, whether it's you or us or you get fired or whatever, you get nothing.
You get nothing, right?
For the first year.
And then your 30% vests over 4 years. So obviously it's a big term commitment. Investing means that you basically, because it's for 4 years and it's 30%, you divide 30% by 4, and then over the 4 years, for every year you get that percentage, right? So it seems like, especially in African context, it seems like a crazy thing.
What do you mean?
Yeah, whereas in like Silicon Valley, in the US generally, if you're anywhere where the startup world is at, right? That's common. That's exactly what people are doing. Is that you're taking equity for the bet that this company will do well enough to either be acquired or go public, right?
Exactly.
So that you can be able to make money
Also,
and be able to save, what's it called? Make your family be able to change their lives forever, right?
the thing is, like, also if you're an employee mentality, that cannot work because you're trying to be like, I'm gonna do the most minimum work for this employer.
That's
But
true.
if you want to own a business and you understand that equity is actually more valuable than salary,
It is.
then you take the equity deal.
It's true, and that's why I
Because
say
you
what we
can
did.
control your fate, I guess, in essence. Because
That's
if you
what
have
we-
equity, you can say, I'm going to work as hard as possible to make my equity valuable.
Yeah.
When you're being given salary, it's like, I'm going to get a day of money anyway, so...
And that's why we also build an equity pool as part of what we'll be offering to our employees. Because I think that, as my friend KT says, we know him as Papi. Hopefully, he'll be able to come on the podcast at some point. Who worked at Wasoko when there was still Soko Watch. Is that we want to be able to build businesses where people can be able to benefit as well as the farmers, right? So, as part of your package, equity is always given, right?
Yeah.
But you're the one who decides, right? So if you can choose the equity package, it's less money, but you're betting on the company and you have more skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
Or you get you can get the cash package, right? But you have no skin in the game, right? And you would get, because I want a situation where even the janitor working for us at some point be given equity, 0.5%, whatever the amount is. But 0.5% of whatever that number will be, if you're acquired, if there's an exit or whatever, what happens is that person's changed their life. Because $100,000 to somebody like that's changing their life forever. There's nothing, you can't make that up, right? So that's kind of the goal, is that equity allows for you to have skin in the game, number one. And number two, in our context, you ain't making any money until you start making money, right? Because you haven't been paid for the last what? I haven't made a salary for the last year, basically, for me, right? It's been a bit less just because you quit your job a little bit later, but basically you ain't getting paid until you start making. So for us, we have a big problem, is that you have to get users. You're motivated because you don't have the option of just sitting down and getting paid. Because at L'Oreal, just say, well, I'll do the minimum work for my review every year, right? And I'll get paid and I'll be good. No problem. So it's kind of interesting. It's been fun doing it with Natalie and the people who are doing it, just because it so happens that she complements my, is it my faults or my, but I don't know, how do you say it?
Weaknesses.
My weaknesses, that's the correct term. And so it works well. So for me, I'm confused. Actually, I'm worried because let's say this works out, we do this for 5 years, whatever the long period is, we get an exit, things go out. Now I'm supposed to build something else because I want to be building startups forever, right? How do I make sure that I get another co-founder that will basically? But I guess that's a problem to be figured out later. But I think it's been very interesting. It's been challenging. It's been frustrating for me because I thought we were going to be able to launch.
You were trying to launch it
like a month ago, right? But so many things came up. In terms of the product, code is just so interesting.
Also reinventing the MVP,
That's true. Yeah, it's true.
Also, another misconception is that you have to start a business that's fully functional and you have thought out.
Why is the one taught us that basically?
And that's not true because a minimum viable product is
which is what MVP means.
Not anything outrageously, outstandingly good. Like Airbnb used to be air and mattresses. Used to sell air mattresses, guys.
Yeah.
Air mattresses.
Yeah.
For people who used to attend conferences, and when the hotels were booked, you could go on air mattress and buy an air mattress, and you just pump that thing up and sleep in your friend's hotel room, which they have been able to book, or in some other place. Right? That was like their minimum viable product.
Yeah,
if you told these guys that this is going to be a game changer in how what is called I would not say hotel management, but like is it travel industry, travel and accommodation industry works. If everybody said, be like, what do you mean? They'd be selling mattresses.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? So I think there's a misconception definitely about how
the MVP
start.
Is the worst version of your product that early adopters will accept because the problem is so bad that they would rather have the version of your product that is so bad than what they're actually using right now. Right? And that's what the MVP is supposed to be, right? And then obviously post MVP, you're trying to find product market fit, which just basically means getting the product to be to fit the market,
Yeah.
right? And that's the hard part, because once you get to product market fit, then things are a little bit better. Things start looking better, and things are more interesting. So it's been very cool building this. I'm excited. It's been one of the highlights of my life is making this decision, because, like I said, in our family, my dad has had some of the deepest ideas, and they've all been built, right? And he could have been the one to build it. And it's cool that we're in this generation. The women will cut that thing off. That we'll be able to build things from scratch and do that, because like there's nothing bad about obviously working at a job and doing whatever you're doing, right? Because we need those guys, right? Which is what our parents did, right? But if you want financial freedom, if you have the ability to be able to create your time, start to work whenever you want, be able to record this podcast when you're doing work, you're only doing it post 5. You ain't doing it any other time, right? So it's kind of interesting to be able to do that. It's cool. Thank you for being part of this, Liuma, because it was building this would be complicated if somebody was not like you, because sometimes, like I said, when the motivation is low, you're wondering, what the hell am I going to do?
No, it's true.
You feel like, it's taking so long. Like,
it's a double responsibility, I think, because you see now, our livelihoods are linked to one another.
True, I agree. Which is good, and that's where the good thing is that our parents bred camaraderie between the siblings, which made it so that it's easy for us to be able to work together. Because there's tons of relationships where that I know where it ain't gonna work, because maybe you think your brother's too lazy, your sister's this, like maybe your skills don't complement each other.
Also, we are not necessarily agreeable to each other. I think that's like a key thing. I think if you work with a sibling, that's like you have a dynamic where like you can be guilt tripped into like doing stuff, like agreeing on opinions and stuff like that. But like we are siblings, but we work as independent humans.
It's true.
And I know that's like
I agree with you. It's true. It's very, very cool. So
probably not computable, but it somehow makes sense. I don't know how to explain it.
Is there anything we have forgotten? Actually, the one thing I was gonna say is that if you guys want to be part of YC Startup School, right? Because it's not the full YC program where you go through a badge and they give you money, but it is very helpful to be able to, first of all, help you to be able to understand how to apply for YC itself, and number 2, give you good matrices. I think that's the term, yes, to be able to gauge if your startup is a startup number 1, if it's a startup that people want. For example, this week I was seeing a video of one of the partners there saying that if you want to find out if your startup is a necessary startup, is whenever you should ask your users, how would you feel if we close shop today? Would you be not care basically, or would you care a lot, right? And if less than 40% of the people think that it will affect their lives whatsoever, whether you're there or not, then you know that's a very big problem, and that you're not building a startup that people actually care about and that want to exist. So I think that's a big. I think I'll try and put the link in the description for YC Startup School. But all you have to do is just type in YC Startup School, go through the batch, go through the school. I think they now do 3 or 4 sessions in a year. So I could be able to go through with your co-founders and understand what you're doing wrong.
In the meantime, they have the old ones on.
They have and they have the YouTube videos as well, which is very, very important for you to be able to understand what to do. So I'd like to thank you again for coming to the podcast. We've been able to talk to what we're doing and stuff. So see you guys later.
Yeah.
It was good. Say peace.
Until next time.